officials that showed up. And we're glad you're here. This is probably one of the most important issues that you will face in your lifetime from here on out. This threatens everything that exists, and everything that you do will be controlled by this. And I'll leave it to her. She's a lot better with this than I am. Rosa Koire.
All right, I'm so glad to be here. And unfortunately, this is my last day in Tennessee, and I've had a fantastic time with the people of Tennessee. It's been great. And I know some of you are from Georgia too, and I appreciate you coming. And I really appreciate it that all of you as Americans are concerned about this issue that is so very, very important to all of us. And I definitely appreciate the invitation, because Tennessee is definitely one of the few brave states to speak out against United Nations Agenda 21 Sustainable Development. And as you know, the joint Senate and House Resolution 587 was passed that is condemning United Nations Agenda 21 Sustainable Development. It mirrors the Republican National Committee's resolution that does the same. And of course, when I saw that, I fired off a letter to the Democratic National Committee, and I said, well, as a loyal Democrat, I said, I'm expecting the Democratic National Committee to do likewise. And what did I get back? I got back, a request for $3 to contribute to President. I said, well, I didn't vote for him the first time. I'm not going to vote for him again, that's for sure. I'm not giving him any money either. So, so I am definitely glad to be here, and I'm here to talk about something that is so important to us. This is a very serious threat to the continuing existence of our nation. And I don't get much more important than that. So as Americans, you'll find yourselves completely at odds with and deeply concerned by the agenda for the 21st century. And it's called that by the United Nations. That's why it's Agenda 21. It's the agenda for the 21st century. It's called that by the United Nations and by the world, all 179 nations that signed on to it. It is a blueprint. It is the action plan to inventory and control all land, all water, all minerals, all plants, all animals, all construction, all means of production, all information, and all human beings in the world. Doesn't get much more comprehensive than that, does it? Like I said last night, I don't think they got up to the moon, but that's not for lack of trying. So it's a transition from representative government to government by unelected boards and commissions. It's the erasure of jurisdictional boundaries. And you find that you will lose your property rights, your private property rights, and of course you want to remember your body is your most important private property. Amen. Loss of sovereignty, and ultimately, of course, your loss of freedom. So, of course, you're going to be concerned about this, not just as Tennesseans and not just as Americans, but as citizens and human beings in the world. United Nations Agenda 21 Sustainable Development was signed on to by 179 nations, including the United States, in 1992 at the Earth Summit in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. George H.W. Bush committed the United States to implementing sustainable development principles, and it has been supported by every president ever since. It's a global plan, but it is implemented locally. So United Nations Agenda 21 Sustainable Development is the biggest public relations scam in the history of the world. And I wish I was exaggerating, but I'm not. It is actually far more than that. The agenda for the 21st century is a recipe for destruction that enables and justifies monitoring and metering and restricting our energy and water usage. You'll see that as smart meters. Instituting a carbon tax on industry, pulverizing our roads and destroying our dams, sinking our economy, exhausting our military with endless war, diagnosing a huge portion of our population with mental illness and drugging us, bleeding our transportation budget with high-cost trains that go nowhere and probably won't get built, revamping the school system by inserting sustainable development principles into every course, from kindergarten all the way through to postgraduate school. It declares our public lands off limits to humans, changes every land use document in the nation to require high-density development, high-density housing in city centers to more easily monitor and control us. It allows for warrantless searches and domestic surveillance. We have been identified as enemy combatants in our own country. We have seen the redefinition of torture. If an enemy was trying to destroy us, it couldn't do a better job. This is the erection of a corporatocracy, a total global totalitarian state, and it is happening now. No flashing lights, no titles. You won't see the term Agenda 21 anywhere except to label you crazy. But you are not crazy. The plan is crazy. We are not crazy.
Amen.
Amen. Okay, so here's how it all works. There is an overarching political and social philosophy that goes with this plan, and it is communitarianism. Hey, shut off your phones. Let's do that, because we're going to be in a space together here. We're going to really be traveling together here. So let's be in this space. So when you think about this, this is a political and social philosophy. Now, all political movements have a social philosophy. It's part of it. And this is what it is, communitarianism. It says that you need to balance the individual's rights with the rights of the community. Now, you're an American. You know that your Constitution guarantees your individual rights, the rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Now, you were born with those rights. Those rights were given to you by your Creator. They cannot be taken away by any government or granted by any government. They are guaranteed to you by your Constitution, your individual rights. But under communitarianism, the community's rights need to be balanced with your rights. Now, what is the community? What are the community's rights? They are undelineated. They are not written. They can change at any time. When they're balanced with the individual's rights, the community's rights are always like a brick, and the individual's rights are like a feather. That's the idea of balance. Now, I have an image that I like to use, and some of you have seen me do this. And I like to do it because it's visual. So just think about this. We've got a couple of clear glasses. One glass is full of water, and that's a constitutional republic. That's what we have here in the United States, constitutional republic. Then we have another glass, and it's a glass of water. And, it's a glass of milk. And that is a communitarian state. Communitarian state, Soviet Union, communist Soviet Union, communist China, Hitler's Germany. That's a communitarian state. It's all for the fatherland, all for the common good, okay? So that's your milk. So now you're going to take a glass pitcher, you're going to put it down here on the table, and you're going to balance your individual rights, your constitutional republic rights, your water, with your communitarian state, all for the fatherland milk. You're going to pour those together, and you're going to balance them, and now what do you have? You got milk, don't you? You have lost your individual rights. They have been subsumed into the rights of the community. It is all for the common good. Think about that when you lose your rights to your water. You don't own that water. You don't own that water. That water belongs to the community. So, Agenda 21 is dependent on something called the Hegelian dialectic. And basically the way this works is it creates, you have a crisis that is created, and then a solution that's posed. And the balance between the two becomes the new normal, because you know, everybody has to give and take a little bit. You got to have your compromise, right? So let's say you start out white. Here's another visual. You start out white, and then you have a serious crisis. It's black. Well, you're going to compromise, and you're going to be gray. You're going to have this gray. But now you got another crisis. It's black. You're going to take that gray, pour it together. Now you're dark gray. Now you got another crisis that you have to balance, that you have to figure out how you're going to make that all work out, the compromise. You're going to put that together, you're going to pour those together, that dark gray and the black, and where are you? You've gone from white to black. You have gone from a situation that you never would have allowed a compromise of your freedom and your private property rights, and you have been brought through a series of incremental compromises to a place that you never would have accepted. This is the balance. So, what's the crisis? Global warming, climate change. Climate change, global warming. No, it's global warming, climate change. Climate change, global warming. It's cold, it's hot. Oh, I don't know, it's serious. The planet's in danger. Oh my goodness, chaos, disaster. The sea levels are rising. You're going to have to get your snorkel out or you're not going to make it, right? No time to lose. In 100 years, we're all going to be underwater. It's all going to be over soon. And all intelligent people agree that it's our fault. Now, I'll tell you, I got this from this little rag of a newspaper where I live. It says, it's hard to deny that the Earth is functioning well over capacity. Like an overworked horse, it's simply a matter of time before the global organism collapses. Right. Okay. Feel that panic? Got that terror kind of getting you? Feeling nervous about it? This is dependent on your ability, your inability to think clearly. It's dependent on your nervousness, your fear, and your ability to react instead of to think clearly and not just react, but to be a thinking, logical human being. All intelligent people agree now that it's our fault. Our selfish, wasteful, greedy ways have destroyed the planet, almost. Okay, what do we do? UN to the rescue. Here it comes. UN's going to save the planet, right? The World Commission on Environment and Development, that's the Brundtland Commission, 1987, that is the United Nations Commission. They brought out a book, it's called Our Common Future, and it defines sustainable development. Now everybody knows sustainable, you think you know what sustainable development is now, you think you've heard it, you know, you got sustainable tennis shoes, you got sustainable, I had some sustainable coffee in one of my hotel rooms, you know, sustainable development coffee. Everybody thinks they know what it is, but here's where the definition comes from. When you have an elected official that says that they don't know what sustainable development is, that it could be anybody's guess or anybody's call, it comes from the United Nations. This is where this term is from. United Nations, 1987, development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their needs. Well, that sounds good. That sounds great. I mean, isn't that what our nation is founded on? Who has grandparents who didn't want the world and lives for their grandchildren to be better for their grandchildren? Who in this room doesn't want their world to be left to the people who come after to be better? Okay, but then what happened? Well, all that remained was to state that yes, everything that we are doing is compromising the ability of future generations to meet their needs and decide what to do about it. So, the UN said to the Brundtland Commission, that's the World Commission on Environment and Development, in 1987, they said, hey, you guys, you do us a favor, come back with the action plan in 5 years at Rio de Janeiro, 1992. We want to see the action plan. The action plan. Here it is. For all those people who tell you that you're crazy, that there's no such thing as United Nations Agenda 21, well, my, what is this? Agenda 21, the United Nations Program of Action from Rio. 300 pages, 40 chapters, covers every aspect of your life. It's the action plan for sustainable development. The chairman of the UN, Maurice Strong, you'll remember him, Oil for Food. He had to skedaddle out of here and run to China. Got into a little bit of trouble there. When he was making his address in 1992 about sustainable development to the United Nations, he said that the affluent lifestyle, the affluent middle-class lifestyle, which I suspect you enjoy, is unsustainable. What is that? It's single-family residences, private vehicles, appliances, meat eating. That went over real big in Texas. Livestock, that was even bigger. Air conditioning, dams, and reservoirs. And many other things are considered to be unsustainable. Now there's a physical logo, like an image that they use to show you exactly what it is that's sustainable, that looks like sustainability. This is from this fabulous book. Okay, let's see. Here it is. This is the image. It's 3 circles. Actually, it's a Venn diagram for those math people. I know you probably can't see it. That's okay. It looks like a piece of the Olympic symbol. Okay, it's 3 circles. One is social equity. Another one is the environment. And the last one is the economy. When these are all in balance, these 3 circles, when they're all in balance, all these elements of your life, that is considered to be sustainable development, where they meet, where everything is in balance. This involves economics, housing, transportation, land use, health, water, energy, food production, and population control. China has an Agenda 21 plan. They were one of the signers. They're working on a sterilization vaccine with the United States. So there's an element of United Nations Agenda 21 Sustainable Development that is very important, that you want to keep in mind. It is the precautionary principle. It's number 15. It's in the book. By the way, you can get that. You can get this book from the United Nations website if you can bear to give them any money. It's, I forget, it's about $25 on their, go to the un.org and it's on their site. And by the way, you know, I called my book Behind the Green Mask, and that's it, because, isn't that a cool picture? Because, no, the reason I called it that, this itself is the green mask. Because this looks good. You read this and you go, well, I don't know, seems okay, seems all right. Clean air, clean water, who couldn't be for clean air and clean water? Who isn't for clean air and clean water? Who knew that being in favor of clean air and clean water meant that you wanted to give up your single-family residence and your vehicle, and your appliances, and your livestock, and your private property, and your freedom? So, we were talking about the precautionary principle. That's number 15. And it says, if an action or a policy has a suspected risk of causing harm to the public or the environment, if an action or a policy has a suspected risk of causing harm to the environment or the public, in the absence of scientific consensus that the action or policy is harmful, the burden of proof falls on the one who's taking the action. That is why when you say, well, we've got all these scientists over here that say that global warming, climate change is not true. Well, we've got 100 scientists. Well, we've got 200. Well, we've got 1,000. Well, we have 30,000. We have 50,000. We have... It's in the absence of scientific consensus. In other words, you are guilty until proven innocent. Now, in the United States, the precautionary principle, or, well, just think about it for those endangered species that you don't have on your property. Okay, so you're guilty until proven innocent, and this is how it works. Now, in the EU, the European Union, that makes law. They don't even define it, but somehow it makes law. In the United States, we call it the precautionary approach, and it makes policy. It's not supposed to make law, but it does. You'll find this informing your law. This is a global plan, but it's implemented locally. That is its strength, but it's also its weakness, isn't it? Because that's where we are. We are local. The people who are implementing this plan are our neighbors. They're our friends. They are people we work with. They might be us, and we just don't realize it. And that's what we're going to do tonight. We're going to talk about that. So, like I said, 1992, Rio de Janeiro Earth Summit, Bush and 178 other leaders signed on to it. Later that year, Clinton got elected, 1992, right? November, he took office. By the next year, 93, June of 1993, he had created the President's Council of Sustainable Development. That was produced and that was specifically created to implement Agenda 21 in the United States. That was what it was for. Who was on that? The President's Council on Sustainable Development. 12 cabinet-level secretaries, including Education, Transportation, HUD, EPA, Department of Transportation, that's right, Defense, Interior, Education, did I say that? A whole bunch of them. Besides them, you found, and their task was to put this into all of the government agencies, implement it administratively, but it wasn't all that was on that President's Council Sustainable Development. There were also captains of industry, like Ken Lay from Enron, Dow Chemical. You had, besides them, you had, and of course, other energy companies. You had, Monsanto was not on there. You had environmental groups like Sierra Club, that's right, the Natural Resources Defense Council, World Wildlife Fund, okay? Now what did they do? They've got this big unwieldy thing, they've got to change our lives, totally. Change the way we see our world, change the way we use our property. It's mainly implemented as a land use document. So what did they say? They said to the American Planning Association, which is a private firm, a private organization, non-governmental, non-profit. They said, will you do us a favor if we give you a few $1 million? Will you come up with a way to get this into every single university, every college, and every planning department in the entire United States? And they said, sure, we'll do that for you. And they did. It took them about 6-7 years. They came up with Growing Smart, legislative guidebook, with model statutes for planning and the management of change. Change. There are a lot of jargon terms that go with this. What is jargon? It's a language all on its own that means something entirely different to us who are not in the know than it does to the people who are connected. Change to us means either what we've got in our pocket, or it means something that is just sort of organically moving forward. But change in the jargon of sustainable development means total transformation, destruction, and complete reversal of what you have come to expect for property use and property and land value in your country, and for your jurisdictions and how you elect officials. So that's what we're looking at. Growing smart is smart growth. That's where that term comes from, smart growth. Now you might have heard that term, you might not have, but what it is when you go out there in your town and you look around and you see this in the center of your town, you're going to see high density development that is mixed use. Mixed use. Is that a bad thing? Do I care if you have a ground floor retail shop with apartments above? No, I don't care. You want to go get a loan and do that? It's very difficult to get a loan for because you got two different risk rates for that. Oftentimes your commercial is going to be vacant. Your upstairs condos might not be filled. You got a lot of risk there. Okay? It requires subsidies mostly. You will find that your property tax and your transportation tax dollars are going to subsidize private development. So that's what it is, smart growth. Ground floor retail, 12 feet high, built right to the edge of the sidewalk. Right above that, 2 to 3 or more stories of residential condos or apartments above. In an alley around the back, You've got parking accessibility for one vehicle per unit or less. Around the front, you've got down the street a line painted for a bike lane. Or you might have that train that doesn't really exist, but is taking your half-cent or quarter-cent sales tax from now until the choo-choo blows. You've got, and maybe you have a bus. Okay, so there's you're looking at transit villages now. You thought you lived in a town, but now you are going to find that you have human habitation in a transit village. Growing Smart. Growing Smart. Legislative guidebook with planning, with model statutes for planning and the management of change. Okay, now you thought if you work for a city or a county, or if you're elected official and you get your planners come before you and they hand you some ordinance or statute or something, some new law that they didn't come up with that. That comes out of a box of laws and statutes. An incremental box for where you want to move to tighter and more restrictive rules for what you can do with your property. So by 2002, every single planning department in the entire United States, every college, every university had this book on their shelves. Now, I didn't bring the whole book with me because it weighs 12 pounds. But I brought the cover of it. It's in here somewhere. I'll show it to you in a minute when I find it. Here it is. This is the cover. If you're an elected official, I invite you to go into your planning department and take a look at this book. It is there. What else did they do, the President's Council on Sustainable Development? They said, you know, the people of the United States are not going to be too happy when they find out about this. They're just not going to like it. So what are we going to do? We got to get them to get on board with it. We need a whole new way of thinking. So there was another book that they did. It's called Sustainable America, A New Consensus. Now, consensus, you know what consensus is. It's agreement of all parties. If we all get together in this room, we want to do something, we're going to hear from everybody, we're going to work it out, we're going to stay in here all night until we all decide on something. That's consensus, right? But a new consensus is neutralization of the opposition. Neutralizing your enemies. That's what you're going to see in your government meetings. That's your government at work. When you come into a meeting and you find police in the room, you find men with guns in the room because you might say something, well, that's a new consensus. Yeah. So, what is this about? You go to your visioning meeting, your BCC 2035, your visioning meeting. What's that all about? They use what's called the Delphi technique on you. That is the Rand Corporation mind control technique developed during the Cold War. It was designed to bring groups of people to a predetermined outcome while giving them the impression that it was all their idea. That's right. You're looking at it. Not now. I'm not doing it to you. But you're going to find that, no, I want you to think for yourself. I know there's people in here who don't like what I'm saying now. You'll have your chance. You can ask me any question, and I will stay here all night and answer every single question anybody has. This is not something I believe like with faith. This is something I know is true. Amen. Okay, so what does this mean? We're talking about what is it to live in a free country? I ask you, what makes us different from China, really? That is that we have the power to dissent and not be taken off to jail or killed. When they take that away from us, do we still have a free nation? When we're in a meeting and there are police officers on the walls and we are told that this is our plan, that you came up with this plan, that we're doing a visioning meeting and it looks just like the same plan that is in every single city and town and county and state and nation. I'm talking about BCC 2035. looking just like, what does it look like? It looks like Imagine 2040. It looks like Imagine 2035. It looks like one Bay Area. It looks like one valley, one vision. It looks like 4 states, one vision. It looks like 6 counties, one vision. It looks like one New Zealand. It looks like Hanoi Regional Center 2035, Hanoi, Vietnam. Oh yeah, they do change the names of the streets, so it's not entirely the same. That's consensus. Neutralization of the opposition, that's you. So, just in case you think I'm making this up, here we go. What is this? This is this cute little book. It's called Rescue Mission Planet Earth, a children's edition of Agenda 21. Yes, that's right. Your children and grandchildren are being manipulated through outcome-based education. I had this little booklet. Where did it go? I want you to hear this. This is the little work booklet, children's activity booklet. It says, turning Agenda 21 into action is a big challenge for us all. Thousands of people at the United Nations and in governments are working on it. This booklet will show parents and educators how children can be a part of this work. Yeah, by Boutros Ghali of the United Nations and the children of the world. As I say, I bet they're getting their royalties. So the idea, taking it back to greenhouse gases, because that's where we're at. This is the justification, this is the explanation, this is why, this is the whole big thing. We're destroying the planet, we've got to deal with it. The idea is that life in the suburbs and the rural areas is unsustainable because we produce too many greenhouse gases. It's that evil sprawl. That's where you live. In fact, that's where most of your state is. That's what your state is, except for your 4 towns. Nashville, Memphis, Chattanooga, Knoxville. Everything else is sprawl. Okay, it costs too much. This is the green mask. It costs too much to get public transportation out to you in your sprawl. And we don't want you driving your car because you're releasing too many greenhouse gases. So that's the justification for moving everyone into the dense city centers where you can be managed and controlled. Now you might think I'm kind of crazy for saying that right now, but I guarantee you by the end of the time that I'm done, you're not going to think that anymore. So how do they do it? They use ICLEI, which is the International Council of Local Environmental Initiatives. Except it was. Now, because we're all hip to them, they're calling themselves Local Governments for Sustainability. Local Governments for Sustainability. What are they? They are a non-governmental organization, and they were created in 1990 before Agenda 21, and they also wrote part of Agenda 21. Excuse me. They were created to implement Agenda 21 worldwide. Sponsored by the United Nations, they are a stealth organization. They say they represent 600 million people in 70 countries worldwide, but you probably never heard of them, or maybe just heard of them recently. Let's just see who's a member, shall we? Chattanooga, Cookeville, Franklin, Nashville, Signal Mountain, Hamilton County, Knoxville, Oak Ridge, Shelby County. And this is just in Tennessee and Georgia, since you're from Georgia, some of you, Atlanta, Chatham County, Decatur, Fulton County, and Savannah. Got a whole list here of members of ICLEI. It's a big, long list, and that's just in the United States. It's made up of elected officials. It's a non-governmental organization made up of elected officials. How's that suit you? Your elected officials aren't going to tell you that they're members of this. I'll tell you a little story. One of our county supervisors happens to sit on the national board of ICLEI. Never mentioned a word of it. Now, ICLEI sells climate adaptation software, and they monitor your greenhouse gas emissions for a fee. And if you don't want to pay, they'll give it to you because they really want you to have it. So in our county, $83,000 no-bid contract to ICLEI. And that supervisor voted for that without mentioning to anyone that she sat on the national board of ICLEI. Her name's Valerie Brown. Hi, Valerie. So I reported her to the Fair Political Practices Commission, the California Fair Political Practices Commission, for conflict of interest. Seems like a conflict of interest to me. I don't care if she gets paid by them or not. She's sitting on their national board, but they declined to investigate. And I got paid back for that with a nice little attack article in a newspaper. Because that's part of communitarianism, right? It's dependent on peer pressure. They want you to go along to get along, and they want you to be obedient. This is part of it, okay? Well, you're making some money. You're not going to say anything. You got a board or a commission appointment? You got an award? Maybe you just got a pat on the back. What's it going to take? So that's what they do. They sell greenhouse gas adaptation, climate adaptation software. When Obama was running last time, he made a commitment. Well, I don't think he personally made the commitment. I doubt that he and Michelle and the kids are going to do this, but you and I are committed to this now. 80% reduction of our greenhouse gas emissions, 80% below 1990 levels by the year 2050. 80% below 1990 levels by the year 2050. That seems like an awful lot, doesn't it? So I decided to find out exactly how much that would be. I found a chart. I looked at the chart, took 80% off 1990 levels. What year did I come down to? You read my book. 1934 was a very good year for this country, wasn't it? We weren't producing much of anything. Not too many greenhouse gas emissions, but since we have a lot more people in this country now than we did in 1934 on our per capita level, we're going to be taking it back into the 1880s, probably. Now you might think you're going to be on a horse and buggy, but you're not, because you got too many greenhouse gas emissions coming out there. So you're going to be on your bicycle. Now I don't care if it never rains or snows. I just got an email from a guy in Minnesota. He said, these people are out of their minds. There's snow on the ground between October all the way to May. And they're spending millions of dollars on these bike paths. Great idea. So I ride a bike. I love bikes. I'm not against riding a bike. This is way more than that. Now, Kyoto. You remember the Kyoto Treaty? We did not. The United States did not ratify the Kyoto Treaty, but that did not stop 1,055 United States mayors who did. Kyoto said that they would adopt and enforce land use policies that reduce sprawl, that's where you live, and create walkable urban communities. That's right, Kyoto. 1,055 United States mayors signed on to that. That's the Mayor's Climate Protection Agreement. Chattanooga, Cookeville, Crossville, Franklin, Manchester, Nashville, Signal Mountain. No, they're not a signatory to this. This is the Mayor's Climate Protection Agreement. That's for Kyoto. Now, I'll just tell you something else. What is this? This is the Local Agenda 21 Planning Guide. Now, I say we tie down all the planners so they can't run as fast as possible to the office and hide this. And we go into our planning departments and go get a look at this, because this is in your planning department, very likely to be in your planning department. It is the Local Agenda 21 Planning Guide, an introduction to sustainable development planning put out by ICLEI and the United Nations. And what is this thing? It tells them how to have visioning meetings. It tells them how to create consensus, because they want buy-in. They want you on board. They want you to think this is your plan. Every single one of these plans is exactly the same. I don't care where you are, rural, urban, everybody wants the same thing. They all want smart growth. Isn't that amazing? No matter where you are in the country. What is the goal? Using the green mask of environmental concern, the two parts of Agenda 21 are imposed. That is smart growth, moving populations into concentrated city centers and restricting our mobility, monitoring, controlling, and surveilling us, and the wildlands. And that's where you live. Getting people out of rural and suburban areas, blocking access to wilderness roads and wilderness resources, and shifting land ownership from private to public. How are they doing that? I told you, 2002, Growing Smart was in every planning department and every university. If you're studying to be a planner, you are studying that book. Since 2002, every planner you go into has gone through school already and has been indoctrinated with the idea that where you live is a bad thing, that you shouldn't be out there on that watershed. There was a planning revolution, and I recognized it because it's what I do for a living. I'm a commercial appraiser, eminent domain appraiser. I work for the department, just retired to do this. I work for the Department of Transportation in California, and my job was to serve all of the people of the state, including those people whose properties were being taken for a freeway. I would go into the planning department and I'd say, what can these people do with their land? And about 10 years ago, I found that there wasn't very much that they could do. That I was walking out of there going, it doesn't matter what they're zoned? How am I going to figure out what their property is worth? How am I going to fairly compensate these people? Well, I got around it by saying, well, what's the most anybody has been able to do with their land ever in this county? And that's how I paid them. That's how I appraised their property, at the very highest price that the market would pay, because that's the law in California. So here's the way they do it. Here's how this works. You have a comprehensive plan. Now that's what you're going for your BCC 2035. That's a comprehensive plan. What that is it's a land use plan, transportation and land use plan. And it is sort of like the wish list. It's the underpinning. And then on top of that, you have, you know what your existing zoning is, your R2 or your ag or your commercial or whatever. But since your comprehensive plan shows general zones of areas where they want to see particular types of construction, like maybe mixed use, or maybe low density residential, or maybe very high density residential. Whatever your zoning is has to be brought into compliance with that, or you're legally non-conforming. Now don't go away here, stay with me here. If you have a commercial property in the center of town, and you're looking at, on your comprehensive plan, mixed use. Mixed use, commercial and residential together, right? You've got a small commercial building right there in town. Now it's got some parking right in front of it, you know, right there on your land. You got a little short parking lot, and then your building's set back a little bit, right? Now you go in, you got a new tenant. He says, I got to add on to this building. I need to add a little bit onto the building. So you go in, you get your, you figure you're going to get your permit. Go do that. And they say, oh no, you're not doing that. Because you got to bring, you're legally non-conforming. You can't make changes to that building now because it's not built to the edge of the sidewalk and it's not mixed use. And you have one-story footings on that building. You can't just go put a second story, a second residential floor on top of that. It just doesn't work. You can't do it. So what happens then is that you can't make changes to that building. If you want to get a loan on that building, you might have issues with that. If you want to bring a tenant in, you might have issues with that. If you want to sell that building, you might have some problems there. And if someone wants to buy that property and make some changes to the building, and they find that they're going to have to scrape it, you think that they're going to want to pay for that building? In fact, it's going to cost you money because they've got to demo that building. That building is a cost to the land, not a plus. This is what happens when you have mixed use through the center of your town, mixed use in your comprehensive plan. because unless you have mixed use already or high density residential, unless you already have that, you're not going to be building that. It's very expensive. In my town, we've got 80 units to the acre in downtown. That looks like a full city block, ground floor retail, empty. You go look through there, it's dirt floor. The thing never even got built out. The people went bankrupt. They lost the whole thing. 4 stories of residential on top of that, most of them vacant. So, you remember that the circles I showed you? Here's the comprehensive plan for Marin County. I know you can't see it. Right inside, Marin County is the county next to mine in California. You might have seen it also in BCC 2035. They call it Guiding Principles, Common Goals, and Growth Framework. Where they come together, that's the vision. I tell you, you want to be an optometrist now, you got so much vision. Everybody's visioning on somebody else's property. When you get invited down to come on down and give your opinion of the new 2035 plan, and you've got your crayons, and you got your plans out there, and you got your gold stars, and they want to hear what you think. You're visioning on somebody else's property who's not there, who probably didn't even know that there was a meeting that night, who did not see that little tiny ad in the paper if there was one, who didn't get invited. And guess who did get invited to that meeting? Guess who gets invited to these meetings? Oh, you're going to be so surprised. Government employees, board and commission members, people who are actually employees of Clarion, people who are in on it. They want to make sure that they get their vision through. They don't want any pesky real people messing it up. Why else would they want police officers ringing the walls when you go in there to say you don't want this and it's not your plan? So, those comprehensive plans were required by the 1998 Tennessee Public Act 1101. What else happens? You got federal funds and state funds. You've got federally funded metropolitan planning organizations that require sustainable community strategies. Through transportation, you got your transportation dollars that are imposed. This is the way that they do it. They do it through these unelected boards and commissions. Now, I know there's elected officials sitting on those unelected boards and commissions. But when you're looking at something like 16 counties, 3 states, hey, in my area, the San Francisco Bay Area, we've got 9 counties, 101 cities. You need a whole huge room just to sit all these people because you want one representative from each municipality. Now, if you don't like what that board is doing, if you even knew it existed, you can what? Unelect one of the people that's on that board? Are you going to really have a real impact on what goes on in that board? No. Did they even tell you they were having a meeting? Absolutely not. Do you even know what it's for? No. So there's 20 MPOs, that's Metropolitan Planning Organizations in Tennessee, Metropolitan Planning Organizations and Councils of Government in Tennessee. That's what you got here. You got regional plans being implemented all over the United States, and these break jurisdictional boundaries. This is what is so incredibly important about this, is that not only, they don't just go around the edge of your county. It's no. They break your county. They actually break your county. Part of your county's in, part of it's not. You thought you had city, county, state, and fed. You thought that when you elected someone that they were going to represent you. You know that the MPO, the Metropolitan Planning Organization, can actually decide who it is on your board that they want. That your people on your board, your commission, can elect, they say, okay, I like you and I want you to be serving on that. And the MPO goes, nuh-uh, We like her better. And that's the way it goes. 16 counties, 3 states, Tennessee, Alabama, Georgia, 1 million people. 16 counties, 4 towns, 16 cities, 4 towns, 5 counties, 1 region. What is that? I don't know. Plan ET, that's what that is.
That's Knoxville.
Yeah. These things are all over the place. We got to put an end to this. Okay, so you got these strategic plans. What do they do? They meet with the leaders. That's not you. That may be some of you. Are these bad people?
Policy one.
I don't know. There are a lot of people, you know, they're just like us. Everybody's just like us. We're all just like us. We're people. We have families. We have people we care about. These are people who think they're doing the right thing. They may not even know what they're part of. It's our job to assist them in understanding what they're doing. And if they continue not to represent us, then we will remove them. They get, what happens then is that people who are elected actually end up rubber stamping these plans, because if they want any of that money, any of that transportation money that's coming down, any of that federal money that's coming down, they have to put smart growth where they are told to. In the San Francisco Bay Area plan, you'll find that you've got certain cities that have, it's a quarter of a mile right down a main street. That's supposed to accommodate all of your proposed population increase over the next 25 years. And this is how this is sold to you, is that all these people are going to be coming. All these people are coming to Bradley County, and you had no idea. All these people are pouring in, and we've got to put them somewhere. Where are we going to put them? We've got to put them in smart growth.
I thought they were
That's
in my county.
You thought they were. They're all coming to everybody's county. They're all coming. All these phantom people. Now I'm looking around. There's not too many people of childbearing age in this room. 2035. Let's see. How many of us are going to be here? I hope all of us. We're talking about population decrease, a lot of us. But instead, we're being told that hordes of people are going to be pouring in, and we have to accommodate all that population increase. And what are we going to do? We're going to have to put them into smart growth. Okay? It all looks the same. Here it is for my 9 Bay Area counties, $200 billion over the next 25 years. And it's going to go only for counties and cities that agree to build smart growth. And they've only identified specific locations. Some cities don't get it. And you know how it works, right? The most urban counties are the ones who get the most money. So if you've got a rural county with a lot of roads, and your county commissioners are like, what are we going to do? We're not getting any money. We can't maintain these roads. You think that's going to have an impact on your property value? So you're looking at regional government. Regional government, a shadow government, a parallel government in the planning stages right now. It's sold to you as an economic driver. You want to be competitive? You want to be competitive? You better get on board. You want to recover? I've got news for you. A collapse of your economy is a vital element of United Nations Agenda 21. So that's right. Yes. The less people who own property, the less people there are to object when you lose your property. The less people who own private businesses, the less people there are to stand up and say that there's something wrong when we are taken over by a corporatocracy, and this is what is going on. In fact, we have public-private partnerships. Public-private partnerships are privatizing and corporatizing our public assets. Water, sewer, energy, prisons, roads, privatized. Yet, combined with that, you'll find the loss of private property for small property holders and corporate control of public land. You know, I want to talk to you about this. This is important. This is Redevelopment, the Unknown Government. This is a great book. It's a free download. You can get it on my website. For those of you who care, it was written by a Republican. It's a great 40-page or so little book. It's got cartoons, it has charts, and it tells you all you need to know about tax increment financing. Seems boring, but you should know about it because a lot of this stuff is getting built with your property tax dollars. Okay?
It is a law in Tennessee.
That's right. I beg your pardon?
It is a law in Tennessee. They passed redevelopment.
Yeah, okay, so here goes. Now you're going to be, here's the propaganda. There's no end to propaganda on this stuff. So you're going to hear it's good for you. We keep the money in our town. We're going to keep the money here. We're not going to give it to the state. We've got to keep it. We're going to use it. We're going to put up street lights that we can't afford to keep on, and we're going to put colored paving downtown. This is Redevelopment, the Unknown Government. You get it on my website. My website is democratsagainstunagenda21.com. That's right. I am a Democrat, liberal Democrat, and this is a nonpartisan issue. This is an American issue. This is where we come together. Okay, so stick with me here, because this is good. This is important, because you're going to see how they do this. This is like somebody said to me, there's this guy who had me in a documentary, and he said, you can use this. He tells me this. I said, all right, I'm going to. He said, it's just like with a magician. Once they show you how they do the trick, you're never going to get fooled again. And that's what this is about, okay? So you're going to see. I'm going to show you. They tell you it's too hard for you to understand. Oh, you're not going to be able to understand tax increment financing. Oh, it's too complicated. Just trust us. It's the good. You're going to like it. Here's how it works. They declare, now I don't know whether they actually have to declare an area blighted in Tennessee, but they can take, what they do is they identify a redevelopment area, and then for the next 20 to 35 years, depending on the time frame on that plan, and we're not talking about just one property usually, we're talking about an area. We're talking about a large area, often downtown, often where a lot of your town's property tax dollars come from. Okay? Let's just say that they declared this area a redevelopment area back in 1982, 30 years ago. Now you keep paying property tax for 30 years. You're paying property tax. It doesn't change how much you pay. And they always say it doesn't cost you anything. It doesn't cost you anything. You don't pay more. Okay, here's how it works. You keep paying more every year, but they have frozen the amount of money that goes into your town and county's general funds. So the money that goes for your police and fire, that goes for your roads, that goes for your parks, that goes for your schools, may not be totally schools here, but that goes for your services, is frozen at that 1982 level. And the money goes into the pocket of the redevelopment agency, it goes out to private developers, and it goes to bond brokers. It goes, the increase over the next 20 to 45 years goes to pay off bond debt, mainly, and to pay for smart growth, a lot of it. Infrastructure that developers would have had to pay for on their own, and that means sewer lines, water lines, gets picked up with your property tax dollars. And that's how it works. Now this is supposed to make your town more economically viable. But in fact, if you take a look at this book, you'll see that it does not do that. What it does is put you tremendously, deeply in debt. Think about what you were paying for property tax in 1982 and compare that to what you're paying now, and then think about that huge amount of money that does not go to your general fund. It does not go to your county. And then think about all the services that are required for oftentimes low-income housing that gets built with those property tax dollars. Do they use services? Low-income housing properties do not pay property tax in California. I don't know if they do in Tennessee, but I bet that they don't, since California is a model. So you have that people who are using your services and there is no money coming in to pay for them. Police and fire, your roads. You end up with this tremendous debt in your city and your county. And what happens, hey, you know, right now in California, yeah, we ended redevelopment, but the debt goes on. 30 to 45 years, and you know what's happening? Cities are defaulting on their debt. They're saying, well, this is a direct quote from a mayor, the mayor of Hercules. What does he say? You can't get blood out of a turnip. Can you imagine? You bought bonds because they're safe. You bought municipal bonds, you made an investment in your city, and now you're not being paid, and your city manager is saying, I don't care. That's just too bad. You can't get that money back. We are defaulting on bonds. This is what's happening. So it gets worse, though. It gets a lot worse. Here we go. 11 mega regions. You thought you had 50 states. Not anymore. Tennessee is part of the Piedmont Atlantic mega region. 121 counties, portions of Georgia, Atlanta, no, excuse me, that's Alabama. I'm not that bad with geography. Georgia, Alabama, Tennessee, North and South Carolina. This is the Piedmont Atlantic mega region. 22 million people. It's the new economic driver, you guys. Oh, you want to be competitive? What do they say about themselves? Something like they're the 12th largest economy in the world or something. It's like you're being told that unless you go along with this, you are going to be financially totally collapsed and not be able to compete. And that's why you should just sit quietly while you lose all control of your government. That's what you're told. Georgia Tech, back in 2006, they held a Think Global, Act Regional symposium where they discussed policies and resources for public-private partnerships. And this is vital and integral because who is taking over your government is huge corporations. Huge corporations that are funding those nonprofits, that are pushing those elected officials, pressuring and giving grants to elected officials. You have government driven by grants. Your government is so starved for money, it's got its hand out all over the place while it's walking off a cliff. That's what you're experiencing now. You know what? You got 11 mega regions. The one in the Pacific Northwest is called Cascadia. It includes part of Canada. The one in Southern California, SoCal, includes part of Mexico. 26% of the nation's landmass, 74% of the population. Where is the rest of the land? It's going to be wildlands. Now you think you're in Piedmont Atlantic, but you're really out in sprawl, and you're going to be coming in. You're going to be coming in to the city. And you're sitting there, you're thinking, over my dead body, I'm coming into the city. She doesn't know me. I got a bazooka in here. I'm not going anywhere. I'm like, good, you stick around. But how do they do it? They pulverize your roads to gravel. They put vehicle miles traveled taxes on you so that if you travel in your car, you're going to pay more and more and more. At the pump, you'll be putting in your zip code, and that'll determine how much money you're going to pay. When you've got roads, when you've got a county that tells you that they don't have enough money to pave your roads, that they're going to be pulverizing them and turning them to gravel, you think that's going to have an impact on your land value? If you can't get out to your property, is that going to affect you? When they tell you you don't own that water, that's the common good. That water doesn't belong to you. You think you own to the center of the earth and the sky like you always thought? No, you do not. Those resources are for the common good. A lot of what you're going to see, when you see high-speed rail, that is a fundamental building block of the mega regions that is designed to fail. It's designed to suck your transportation dollars right down that hole. That's what that's about. You'll see these maps with the design. They've got the line on it. It's drawn on there. But it's going to be a long, long time. We don't have any high-speed rail in the United States. It's very, very expensive. In California, they keep pushing it out. Well, we were going to have it in 2025, now 2033, 2045. It's out there sometime in the future. They're still taking tax dollars for it, though, and they decided that they're going to build it. They're going to build a piece of it so we don't lynch them between Fresno and Bakersfield. Now, for those of you who aren't laughing, I'll tell you that's from nowhere to nowhere. But it's flat. It's easy. Okay? You want to see where it's going? Take a look at the EU, the European Union. This is it. The redesigning of government. It started with a trade agreement. The people voted on a trade agreement, and what did they get? One government, one currency, and a lot of austerity. Regions. You're going to see livable communities, sustainable communities, community partnerships, one planet communities, unelected boards and commissions, loss of your freedom and sovereignty. If you have any doubts about communitarian law in the United States, look no further than the 2005 Kelo decision, the Supreme Court decision. Now, it didn't do what a lot of people think it did. It did not say that you could take somebody's property and give it to another private owner. You already lost that. That's redevelopment. You can give one person's private property to another private individual through redevelopment. Yeah. But what did that Supreme Court decision do? It said, you know, the Fifth Amendment of our Constitution, it says that you are guaranteed, if under the right of the king, eminent domain, that the king, your government, can take your property for a public use and pay you just compensation. What did that do? The Supreme Court decision, the Kelo decision, it redefined public use to say that anything that makes your municipality more money than whatever's there right now is a public use. That's a big deal. The ends justify the means. The United Nations said in 1976 at their conference on human settlements, like that, you live in a human habitat, the built environment. When I first saw some of these terms, I laughed. I thought it was a joke. I actually thought it was pretty funny, and I was like, I saw some guy, he was a contractor in my area. He said he's a builder of human habitations. I about fell out. I thought, who does this guy think he is? I thought it was funny. Joke was on me. I just was late to the party. I didn't realize that all of these terms are the term now. So back at 76, they were talking about human settlements. What did the UN say then? It said land cannot be treated as an ordinary asset controlled by individuals and subject to the market, the pressures and inefficiencies of the market. Private land ownership is a principal instrument of the accumulation of wealth and concentration of wealth, and therefore it contributes to social injustice. Yeah, public control of land is therefore indispensable. Social injustice. What does that mean? It means you better not have any more than anybody else has, because that is not socially just. We're talking about bringing the United States, we got a long way to fall. We got more than one toilet in our house. Well, you can't sit on more than one at a time, can you? That's more than you need. So what's the other part of this? It's the wildlands. The wildlands is a plan to remove human beings and human activity from rural and suburban areas. That's where we are right now. They use extreme population projections to say, wow, if we don't stop this sprawl, we're going to be using up all our farmland. And then how are we going to eat? You feel that fear? I'm nervous. We're using up our country. It's a catastrophe. We got places in our country, if you break down, you're going to turn into a skeleton out there before anybody sees you, anybody knows you're out there. Before cell phones, you'd be out there for 5 years before anybody knew you were there. So, but we need linkages. We need corridors so that Bambi can get together with Bambo. That's right. What's unsustainable? Dams, reservoirs, erosion control, flood control, straightening rivers, brush cutting, forest management, dust. You like that? Tillage. Think about that. What do you do when you plant seeds? You break the soil. You want a seed injection machine? Those are about $250,000. Yeah, but we're really into the family farm. That's, the mask, right? You got the mask. All this stuff sounds good. If it didn't sound so good, we wouldn't all be falling for it. They have got the rhetoric. They are really manipulating us. This is what this is about. This is the new consensus. This is making you think that you're in favor of it, that you support it, that this is all your idea, this is your plan, this is so great. You're saving the planet. Viewsheds, wetlands, buffer zones, ridge lines, biotic resources, streamside thresholds. I appraised a 1,400-acre ranch. I was looking at some other properties that had sold so I could determine what its value was. And I went out and I talked to some people. This guy said to me, Rosa, I've got 1,000 acres here. Before they let me put one house on my ranch, I had to donate 400 acres of ridgeline to the open space district. And he was lucky. He actually got to build a house. Regulatory takings. I call it no pay APA, American Planning Association. They tell you right in that book, right in that marvelous book, where is it, Growing Smart? They tell you right in there, if you're a planner, they tell you how to take property and not pay for it. This is your country. Yes, I'm an eminent domain appraiser. If I went to my Department of Transportation and said, look, this property is going to, you want to take this refinery or whatever, I've done the valuation here, it's so high, I don't think there's enough money in that project. Well, that project didn't happen. That's the way it should be. If they can't pay, they can't take you. But with regulatory takings, they whittle away at your property. With redevelopment, they create blight. They actually, you want to go down there and get a facade, you want to get a permit to put some, fix up the front of your property, they're going to drag their feet because they want that area to go down, because if they want to buy it, they don't want to pay that much. This is our country. Yellowstone to Yukon, we're not just talking about a few acres here and a few acres there with the wildlands. We're talking about huge sections of our nation. We're talking about the whole West Coast. We're talking about across the border between us and Canada. We're talking about the whole East Coast. We're talking about whole states, whole sections of our nation. Hundreds of thousands, millions of acres, 60 million roadless acres already are wilderness. I want you to know what they call wilderness. Because what we think of as wilderness and what your government thinks of as wilderness are two different things. Designated wilderness, according to the United States Department of Agriculture, wilderness is an area where the earth and its community of life are untrammeled by man, where man himself is a visitor who does not remain. That's wilderness. Now, when you get a conservation easement, that is splitting your title. You don't own your full title anymore. In order to get that tax break or whatever it is you did it for, you have split your title. And now whoever holds that conservation easement has the right to come on your property and determine whether you are in violation of the terms of that conservation easement. They can come onto your property and check. If, for instance, you park your farm truck somewhere on your property, you've sold a conservation easement, you figured you'd keep the land for your kids, got a little money, be doing pretty good there. They come onto your property to check to see where your farm truck is parked, and it's in the wrong place. You're loading your cattle there? You can't do that. They're going to give you a fine, and you're going to go to court and fight that fine, and you're going to win, but you're going to pay all the legal costs. You don't have control of your land when you sell a conservation easement. And I got a other little neat factoid for you. When you're all worn out and your kids can't keep the property anymore because of all the regulations on them and they can't even turn around without violating something, they're going to sell the land, the underlying fee, to the conservation holder. At that point, when the fee and the conservation easement come together in the same ownership, it extinguishes the conservation easement. Now they can sell it without an easement on it. So, Agenda 21 is a plan. I've been talking about Agenda 21 the whole time. In case you thought I got off topic, I never did. This is all Agenda 21. See, they don't call it Agenda 21. It is a plan to produce social equity by impoverishing populations and creating total dependence on the government. If you want to see an example of austerity measures, take a look at Greece. This is coming. The corporatocracy is tightening the screws. I know this is you might think, I know I'm kind of a dramatic person, yeah, but I don't really even have to be. I mean, this stuff is real. This is intense. The corporatocracy, this is what this is about. This is out of my newspaper. It says Americans, this is from December, last December. It says Americans' wealth takes a big loss. Americans' wealth last summer suffered its biggest quarterly loss in more than 2 years, as stocks, pension funds, and homes lost value. But what else happened? At the same time, corporations are amassing record cash stockpiles, $2.1 trillion at the end of September. What's this about? It is about using the cover of environmentalism, hijacking environmentalism, environmental concern, the concern that we all have for our land. We are stewards of our land and water, are we not? The concern that we have using the cover of environmentalism, the rigid control of a totalitarian state, is in progress right now. That is what is behind the green mask. It's an abuse of our trust. Everybody knows, there's not anybody in this room who hasn't been abused at some time, whether you're a little child or whatever. Everybody knows it's not what your abuser says, it's what they do. It's not their rhetoric, it's what they do. These plans sound good. BCC 2035, oh, it looks good, everybody's going to be happy, we're all going to be cool. Yeah, in our apartment over a coffee shop. They say they want eyes on the street. Eyes on the street. They want you to be a junior cop. They want you to be watching. It's not what they say, it's what they do. What does it look like? It looks like the USA Patriot Act. It looks like the National Defense Authorization Act signed into law by President Obama this year, just a couple of months ago. That is Agenda 21. It designates the entire world as the battlefield and gives government the right to detain citizens, detain and murder U.S. citizens in the homeland. You believe we stand for that term, the homeland? You must be kidding me. The homeland? Without charge or trial in our country. What's it look like? It looks like community-oriented policing. You'll find that in your town that is funded by the Department of Justice. Fusion centers. These are sort of semi-secret centers all across the United States where all law enforcement comes together and shares information, all the information they have. And this is not local, just local. It's not county. It's not your sheriff. It's your local, your sheriff, your state, your federal, and international. This is where all that information comes together. You want to be a code enforcement officer? You want to be a snoop for your town? Go live in DeKalb County, Georgia. That's right. You can be a little sneaky snitch. How else do they do it? They use neighborhood associations. Literally right down to your neighborhood association. You think that everybody in your neighborhood association is just like you. No, they are not. There are people who are literally being paid to run your neighborhood association. Why? Because your government needs buy-in for these plans. That's right. When they go down there and they beat the drum for smart growth, they represent your whole neighborhood. You go down there and you go, this woman does not represent me. And it's like, oh, you're just some crank. Because these people represent the whole neighborhood. They want you obedient and quiet. Outcome-based education trains your children like dogs. You seen Rethinking Mathematics? You ever see that book? Rethinking Mathematics. It's like a third grade book. It's not about how much, 2 plus 5 is. Oh, you think it should be 12? Well, let's think about that because your feelings are important to us. You know how bad that is for people? I'm a math person. When a child has a little bit of uncertainty in their life, there's nothing better than math because you know the right answer. It's a fantastic feeling when you get the right answer. To take that away from people is a terrible thing. Here's something else. I got this when I was in Dallas. I always try and check the newspapers. This is from the Dallas Morning News. It's about bullying. Bullying in schools. Kids being bullied. Now, I think bullying's bad. Who hasn't been bullied? People get bullied and things seem to be getting out of hand there. Don't they? I mean, it seems, what is this all about, huh? Here we go. Director of the National Bullying Prevention Center at in Minnesota, she says, real national change in bullying will come with a federal law. Get in the corner, we'll take you to the cops. There you go. It's more criminalization. Criminalization, right? The FBI does not need a warrant to get your hotel records, your bank records, your internet records, your telephone records. No warrant needed. Domestic surveillance. Unreasonable search and seizure? Forget about it. What about public-private partnerships? Think about the ultimate public-private partnership. You want to be scared? Think about this. Prisons. Prisons are the ultimate public-private partnership. What does a prison need? Prisoners. What creates more prisoners? Crime. What creates more crime? Making more things crimes. Do you know in Sebastopol, California, the town right next to my town, it is against the law to smoke in your apartment. When more things are crimes, more of us are criminals. These are selectively enforced. Oh, you made a lot of noise in your city meeting, huh? Well, we're going to keep our eye on you. That's what you have here. You've got a problem, a real big problem. You got these talking streetlights now. I love this one. Illuminating concepts. They're surveillance cameras and loudspeakers built together. Homeland Security. Light poles. They're just rolled this out in Farmington, Minnesota, or Michigan, excuse me. I don't know. Farmington. They just started these. Oh, you're in town, and you're like, your dog just, citizen, clean up after your dog. I'm not making this up. I wish I was. You believe it? How about this? You know about the drones, don't you? You know about the drones? Yeah. Okay, check it out. Any real estate agent who wants to launch a drone now and check out, okay, let's say you got a real estate agent who's selling the property next door to you. They want to put a drone up there so they can take some nice photos of All right, well, they see you in your backyard doing whatever it is you're doing. There's no law to protect you. $300, you too can stick something up there. By the way, Comcast, ADT, and a bunch of the cable companies are offering this. This is how they get you. They offer it as a service. They're going to offer this to you as a service. You can have surveillance cameras in your house. And you know what? You're going to have a sensor on your door, so when your kid comes home from school, what's your daughter doing after school? So you're going to have this camera. It's going to take video. You're going to have access to it for 30 days, and they keep it for a year. You know you're going to forget that camera's there. That's right. That's right. You've got the tiniest spy plane in the world right now. It's a little prototype. It looks like a hummingbird. Zips along. It's got audio. It's got visual. It can go for 7-8 miles. Fly in and out of windows. And I was reading this. I love this article because the thing is, I was thinking, of course, it's going to be for Afghanistan, right? It's a surveillance thing. I'm reading it. I get down to the bottom of the article. It says, well, it's just a hummingbird now in the prototype. Why? Because it's not likely to be a hummingbird, considering that that's a rare bird in, say, New York City. Domestic surveillance. So let me tell you this. All totalitarian states share the same characteristics. We think it can't happen here. Guess what? That's right. So this is what it looks like. This is what it looks like. Believe it or not, all totalitarian states share the same characteristics. Total control of property and means of production, total information, surveillance, loss of free speech. How you like that? Consensus. Restricted movement. They share the philosophy of it's all for the common good. The individual is selfish. The Spartan present. Oh, you better conserve. Am I a pig? Do I like to, what do I leave the tap running? No. But I am not willing to give up my civil rights. This is what you're told. You want to save the planet, you give up your civil rights. So, the Spartan present, austerity measures. They all share the vision of the glorious future, too. Oh, life's going to be great here in the Piedmont Atlantic mega region. We've got our bikes. We're right here in town. We can't go anywhere, but there's nowhere to go. So it doesn't matter. We got eyes on the street. I know what you're up to. There goes the train. That's it. Terror is the other thing they all share. Terror. The war on terror is a war on you. That's right. I don't know about you, but when I'm in the airport doing the hokey pokey, I don't go through those. I don't go through the X-ray machine. They cut you out of the herd. You're standing there. I try and make eye contact. As soon as I'm cut out, nobody sees me. They won't look at me. It's like I'm bad. I must have done something wrong. Female pat down over here. Female pat down. Woman wants a pat down. Come on, woman. One wants pat down. You got to get to the airport half an hour earlier. I'm there. She's on me, and I'm going, so is this all you could think of to do for a living? Have you asked yourself how far you're willing to go? Have you asked yourself if there's anything you're not willing to do for money? And then when she really gets down there, I go, I'm a lesbian. Yeah, the joke's on you. So, yeah, a revolution is bad for business. They want to keep you obedient and quiet and going along to get along. You don't have to be a German to be a good German. It's not about nationality. It is about not wanting to raise yourself into a position where you are being pointed at in public, where people are saying, oh, look at him. Oh, you're being disagreeable. I can't believe he said that, can you? He raised his voice in a public meeting. That's incredible. You're looking at totalitarian governments, communism, fascism, Nazism, all for the fatherland. It's all for the homeland. This is what it's about. It's all for the common good, as defined by your rulers. Smart gas and electric and water meters can be shut off remotely. Here it is. I won't knock because somebody's recording that, but 3 o'clock in the morning, you go to turn on your light, nothing happens. They can shut your electricity, your power off remotely now. That's surveillance meter. You object. You refuse. No smart meters. That smart grid can be hacked easily. If we were all so worried about our security, you know who's pushing that? Let me just tell you, since you wanted to know. Siemens Corporation is a German corporation. They were a German corporation before the war, World War II, but they weren't doing so well. In fact, they were having some financial difficulties until Hitler generously granted them some slave labor and money for development. Well, Siemens is doing real well now. They're a huge mega corporation. Guess what they make? Solar panels, the smart grid, biomass, trains. We're seeing big mega corporations. You know why you don't know anything about this stuff? It's because 5 huge corporations own your news media. They're going to call us crazy. They're going to call us crazy. Yes, GE. GE is another trading with the enemy company from the German era. We are talking about a continuation of a mindset that is being imposed on us today. This is real. Where do you find it? Well, it's right here in River City. That's right. But you want to go to a university? Vanderbilt University has 56 courses that teach sustainability-themed classes. 56 courses in the 2011-2012 school year. Vanderbilt. University of Tennessee at Chattanooga. Instructional Excellence Retreat. You can teach it too. Sustainability across the curriculum. Here we go. I hope you can see this sort of. This is Bank of America partnering with, I'll show it to you in a second. Bank of America partnering with Berkeley Law and UCLA Law, removing the roadblocks. How to make sustainable development happen now. Does that look good? You want to move in there? That looks good, huh? Yeah, on common ground. National Association of Realtors. Smart growth. It's about smart growth. Who's doing it? Your local, state, and federal government, nonprofits, lawyers, consultants. Why are we paying consultants? Aren't the planners hired to plan? Let's terminate those contracts. Terminate those contracts. We don't need. Are we damn fools or what? We're paying for the same plan they got everywhere else. Exactly. And we keep paying over and over again. What? Come on. I'll change the street names for you for free. Okay, there's a lot of money in green. Bike coalitions. They beat the drum for smart growth. They work in tandem with low-income housing developers. And I'm not talking about the little guy on the street. I'm talking about enterprise, community development, one of the nation's largest low-income housing developers with billions of dollars in assets that is sitting on the board of the nation's largest bicycle coalition consortium. They beat the drum for smart growth. That's what you find. Neighborhood associations, Lung Association has an advocacy wing. If you are making charitable contributions, it is your job as a member of the resistance to find out if the groups and the nonprofits that you are volunteering for and that you are making contributions to, if those groups are advocating for Agenda 21 sustainable development. Pull your support. Do not fund these groups. Do not give them your energy. Don't work with them. Remove your energy from groups that are taking away your freedom. This is our job. We are the resistance. This is who we are. Unions, AFL-CIO in 2001, at their conference, they denounced sprawl and they supported what? Smart growth. Why? Because most of their people come from cities. They are an urban organization. They support urban growth. Walmart is a partner. Your churches, if your pastor is talking about sustainable development, have a chat with your partner, with your pastor. Asset-based community development, it's in your book. I don't have time to go into it now, but you want to know about it because this is mandatory volunteering. You like that term? Mandatory volunteering. What do they think? We're stupid. You know, check it out. This has been going for 20 years. They're out there making touchdowns, and we're in the locker room. We don't even know there's a game going. Well, we're out there now. We're suited up. We've got our helmet and our pads on, and we're out there, and we're making some touchdowns now. We're taking it back. We're doing that. That's right. We're doing it. You're seeing it in your schools, in your universities with outcome-based education. You're going to get loyalty points. You get a card. You're going to be told you're so good. We're going to give you points. They're doing this right now. This is the communitarian plan. They say churches have to adapt to the ecological model or disappear. Who said that? Mary Evelyn Tucker from Yale. She is the Department of Forestry and Religion head. You're going to find that. Sociology and sustainability. Psychology and sustainability. This is a mind control. It is totally subversive and is in every element of your life. I don't blame you. I don't blame you if you feel overwhelmed. Who doesn't? This is an assault. It's an attack on us. It is a bloodless coup. It's actually an administrative coup d'etat, and it's being implemented through regulations, and it's worldwide. United Nations Agenda 21 Sustainable Development is a global plan, and I'm telling you, it's implemented locally, and this is what it looks like. It looks like all these plans that just sound so good, and that is where we're going to take it out, locally. People ask me about, who's running the world. I know it's not me. I know it's not probably anybody in this room. What I care about, of course there's somebody running the world, and there always has been, and there always will be. But our nation is founded on individual freedom. We are the grand experiment. Amen. And we will not let this go on our watch. Amen. Not on our watch. So, this is what we're going to do. You are in the resistance. The resistance is not something you join. It is what you are. And you are the resistance. I'm going to cry. You're going to educate yourself and you're going to educate others. This is your job. You can identify the nonprofits who are partnering with your government to control you, manipulate you, and restrict you in the name of green. If you're paying dues to those groups, professional dues, if you have to pay, you do it under protest, and you go down to those meetings and you stand up in every meeting and you say, I am paying under protest, and this is why. And you tell people, you talk to every single person you meet. People who are in your home are already there. They're your captives. You talk to them about United Nations Agenda 21 Sustainable Development. You got a family dinner, you've got a church supper, you're there. You're talking about it because you know what? This is no more a conspiracy theory. This is a conspiracy fact. This is the truth. This is real. And we will not be made ashamed to speak the truth. This is our nation. If you are participating in these plans and these programs, withdraw your support. Have some guts. Let your community know, I'm about to leave my position. I need a hand financially. Can you help me get another job? The consultants who are being paid by your taxes, who are working with your planning department. I forgot, I was going to show you this. I spaced out on it. This is from McBride, Dale, and Clarion. There may be some people here in this room from McBride, Dale, and Clarion who are doing that BCC 2035 plan. They might tell you they've never heard of Agenda 21. They're lying to you. Fire them. Defund them now. Yes. The nonprofits that are funding candidates must be identified locally and exposed. If they are part of this plan, identify them. Refuse to take campaign contributions from them. We have to reject them. We are the people. Let's us stand shoulder to shoulder. I don't care if I'm a Democrat. Look at where I am. Do I care? I come and I talk to you because this is important. This is an American issue. This is not a partisan issue. That's the thing that scares the hell out of them the most, is somebody like me talking to you, and somebody like you talking to me, and both of us joining hands and saying, we'll fight about that other stuff after we fight this to the ground. We will stand together as Americans, together. We are going to, okay, so get your local paper. I know it's a rag. Get it anyway and look in it, because the whole paper is full of this stuff. Go down to your city council meeting, go down to your county supervisor meeting, stand up, speak out, keep them there all night. You've got great leaders. You have people all over Tennessee standing up, people all over the nation. We are everywhere. We have such a huge country, we don't even know what's going on across the country. But I can tell you, I'm going back and forth across the country, all over the country, meeting with great people just like you. And everywhere in the country, we are all standing up and saying, we will stand together to end this. We are doing this. Property rights groups are springing up all over the nation. You understand that you are your most vital property. Students are recognizing that they are being Delphied, and they're refusing to go along to get along. Teachers are speaking out and refusing to teach sustainable development and the new speak instead of math. Parents are going into classrooms and listening to the lessons and reading the textbooks. Doctors are refusing to prescribe mind-altering drugs that have suicide and murder as side effects for children. We're exposing those links with Siemens, ThyssenKrupp. Every time I get into an elevator, it makes me sick. ThyssenKrupp, GE. GE owned ThyssenKrupp. ThyssenKrupp made munitions for the Germans. GM owned Opel. They made the engines for the Luftwaffe. It's not over. All of us are refusing to be Delphied. In my book, I've got 20 pages of what you can do, how to anti-Delphi a meeting. You want to do this. You want to refuse to go along to get along. These are not your plans. This is not your plan. What else? Who's funding that regional plan? Look behind it. Go to their website. Who's funding them? Who are they? Which consultants are working on it? Why is it identical to every plan across the country? We've got flyers. I have flyers on my website. Flyers like this. Now this is for an area that's been declared blighted for a redevelopment project. They don't tell the people in the neighborhood that their area has now been declared blighted or is in a redevelopment area. We go do that. And we make them look official. And we tell them to go down to the mayor and let them know what they think. We put out 7,000 flyers, and we stopped a mandatory green building project that was going to have you lose your property rights to the point where someone would be able to come into your house and inspect your home from the attic to the basement and charge you for that privilege, $750, if you wanted to sell your home or get a permit to build onto your house. So this is it. The goal is collapsing our economy. They're doing very well. Collapsing our economy, turning us against each other, turning us into junior spies, accustoming us to being surveilled, telling us that red and blue just can't ever get along. We are going to fight this, and we are going to win this, because there's nothing else to do. There's nowhere you can go. People say to me, Rosa, hey Rosa, where can I go? I'm like, nowhere. You're not going anywhere. You're staying right here, and you're fighting it right here. And awareness is the first step in the resistance, and that is what you're doing. So join me, let's take this down, and let's take back our country. Thank you.